All right. What's up? This is The Rational Live. I'm your host, David Dole. It is Friday, October 2nd, 2020, the day that Trump got COVID. Unbelievable. I was awoken to this news at about 6 a.m. Shot a video at like 7 in the morning. If you watch that video, it's pretty obvious I'm tired, not showered in that video. But I had to cover it. It's crazy news. Today on Crazy Cat Lady. Check it out. But yeah. So got a lot more on that piece of news today, as well as let me give you a quick breakdown here of what to expect in today's show. Going to discuss a clip from a fantastic author and journalist and what she said about how Trump may exploit the COVID diagnosis. I'm also going to discuss the Amazon workforce and how much they have, or how common coronavirus is with them. Amazon just released those numbers. Also going to discuss a former private health insurance executive discussing how the private insurance industry will try and benefit from COVID in the future. And they've already been benefiting during this time. And also what Canadians think of Biden versus Trump. Who would Canada vote for? We'll get to those numbers. And I'm also going to give you a poll update, of course, on the race to show you what has happened since the debate. All right. How about that? And of course, I'll take your super chats throughout. My goodness, already a big... Did you hear that? A big, that's my audio notification. A big super chat here from Super Porthouse. Thank you so much. Boom, funds for your haircut. Well, you're going to have to fight everyone who doesn't want the haircut. There is a big Twitter thread that somebody put out this week complimenting the hair. Just adding fuel to the fire that this will keep going. So I don't know. I appreciate the money. When I do get a haircut, I will use that money for the haircut. But until then, can't guarantee it's going to happen anytime soon. Cyrus 1976 says happy joy Friday because it isn't for Trump. Now look, I have to create I have to maintain some sort of decency here as the man commenting on this stuff. But just strategically, I don't really think it'd be all that beneficial if it was a serious case and he passed because of it. I'm not sure that would actually be beneficial for us. Just putting aside the humanity aspect of it, I don't know. I want Trump to lose the election to Biden because he lost the election, not because of the virus, not because he wasn't there to be in the race. I want him to witness his horrible loss to Joe Biden. That's what I want to see. But, that's just me. All right. I should get to the first story. Let me open up I know I always do this late, my super chat page, just because I don't want to miss anybody in case I missed somebody already, which is very possible. The interface here on YouTube when you're live streaming isn't all that clear. So I have to go deep into the settings, ensure that I'm getting everybody, and then we will move on. Also, as I remind you every week, all weeks, I'm the only person here. So there's moments of pause, of silence where I set up the next story. And during those moments, just chat amongst yourselves in the YouTube chat. And then I'll eventually jump back in. All right. It appears I got everybody. Let me get to the first story, which, of course, has to do with the virus. So after not taking the virus seriously since the beginning of the pandemic, Trump, as I reported earlier, now has the virus. And I want to take a look at how this has potentially impacted his inner circle, including how it should impact the Supreme Court nomination process. But first, I want to remind you of what happened just this week when Donald Trump mocked Joe Biden's mask wearing.
Recently, you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are
of
okay.
of
You have to
masks?
understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say this.
Vice President Biden.
Obviously they're mocking Biden. Now, to be fair, that was kind of funny. It was a funny comment to make. But it just goes to show what his approach has been this entire time. And it has evolved a little bit. He is now actually wearing a mask at times, compared to before when he didn't ever wear a mask in public. But now, you saw there at the debate, him playing it down. One more clip here.
Make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks and social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also said the opposite. They've also said the opposite.
No serious person said the opposite. Make a big difference.
The idea that anybody said the opposite, that no, if you don't wear masks, then that'll save 100,000 lives. That, of course, has never happened. But here again, you saw just another moment during that debate when Trump was downplaying the use of masks, and now he's got the virus. So, since my reporting on that initial piece of news, it's come out that Trump now has mild symptoms. This is from the White House Chief of Staff. Now, when I saw this, my initial thought was Boris Johnson. The UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, when he first got coronavirus, they also said, he has mild symptoms. And then days later, he was in the ICU and was breathing liters and liters of oxygen to get through it. So he eventually obviously recovered, and Boris Johnson's fine now. But I really don't think the White House would be saying even this if it wasn't serious. If he had just mild symptoms, say he had a cough, do you really think the White House would say that he has mild symptoms? No, I think they would just say, he's not really showing any symptoms. He's doing fine right now. But to make it a point to say that he has mild symptoms, already they're setting the ground for it to get potentially a lot worse. And possibly already right now it is a lot worse. Last I checked, Trump has not tweeted since announcing that he has COVID. So since about 1 a.m. in the morning, Eastern time, he has not tweeted. About 15, 16 hours without tweeting. That is very rare for Donald Trump to go 15 hours without tweeting. So he's likely in bed resting, as he should be. But we're going to see if these mild symptoms evolve into anything else, because already, as I said, them admitting this is something big to me. But going on here, Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany gave an update to reporters on Trump's condition, though did not really say much.
Can you make a few questions? Experiencing mild symptoms. Can you tell us what kind of tests the president got? Did he get a follow-up PCR test, which is more sensitive? How confirmed is this?
I'm not going to get in exactly what type of test, but as soon as he was assured that he indeed tested positive for COVID-19, within an hour, we put out that information to the American people.
Well, you were talking about daily on his health. What were those symptoms?
I'm not going to get into the president's symptoms exactly. He's had mild symptoms, but he is hard at work. We're having to slow him down a little bit. He's been on the phone with Senator McConnell, Senator Lindsey Graham, been on the phone with Chief of Staff Mark Meadows talking about emergency declarations for states, as well as stimulus. So he's hard at work despite the mild symptoms. Jonathan.
The Chief of Staff was out here earlier and said that the White House learned that Hope Nixon tested positive before the president departed for Bedminster for his fundraiser. Why would he still go, knowing there's a positive whom he had contact with?
It was deemed safe for the president to go. He socially distanced. It was an outdoor event, and it was deemed safe by White House operations for him.
Did you know yesterday when you briefed?
No, I did not know when I briefed that Hope Hicks was positive. I've seen some inaccurate reporting. We encourage you to ask the question before you report, because I had no awareness of Hope. No, not you, but I'm saying others who reported it falsely. I had no knowledge of Hope Hicks' positive test before the.
Will you be wearing a mask indoors from now on?
Really, who exactly assessed that it was safe for the president, even though he knew he had exposure, to travel to New Jersey? He was in Marine One, Small Space, Air Force One, and that fundraiser. Who made that assessment?
White House operations made the assessment it was safe for the president in consultation with others.
Haley,
When did the president?
Okay, so not much of an update there. As you saw, she was also asked about meeting with reporters after meeting with Hope Hicks. Hope Hicks, who had tested positive at the time, and apparently Kayleigh McEnany did not know. I don't know why she wouldn't have known that, but apparently, according to her, she didn't know. So she met with Hope Hicks after she had already tested positive for COVID-19, and then spoke with reporters for, I don't know, at least 20, 30 minutes, I imagine, in a press briefing that same day. So potentially exposing other people in that room to COVID-19, though it appears she's fine and doesn't have it, though I'm not clear on that. I'm not sure if she's taken a test or not, but I don't imagine she would be there in front of people if she hadn't already been confirmed to not have the virus. But moving on here. So potentially, who did Trump expose? So GOP donors are panicking after being around President Trump during a fundraiser at his golf course in Bedminster. 30 to 50 donors were close to 6 feet of the president at the event. Most of the interaction was outside. So 30 to 50 GOP donors hanging out close to Donald Trump, talking, shaking hands, hugging, I'm sure, kissing maybe not, but hanging out with his big GOP donors, and now they're freaking the hell out, as they should be. To be fair, as it says here, it was outside. It's a lot better outside, but if nobody's wearing masks, and I have seen some clips now, I think it was clips from that event, or if it wasn't, it was a different GOP event, but basically none of these people wear masks. So when they're hanging out with each other, they all feel like they're invincible. They're not wearing masks, hanging out with them, and they wouldn't be freaking out. These donors wouldn't be freaking out right now if they weren't afraid that they might have the virus. Also, RNC chair Ronna McDaniel has tested positive for the coronavirus. Now, she met with Trump recently at the White House, but also somebody in her family got the virus, so it seems likely that that's where she was exposed. But potentially, who knows? It could have came from Hope Hicks or that inner White House circle. And Mike Lee, Senator Mike Lee, has tested positive for COVID after meeting maskless with SCOTUS nominee Judge Barrett earlier this week, which then brings into question that nominating process. But I will say, after sharing this photo, here's Mike Lee and SCOTUS nominee Amy Coney Barrett from Tuesday, indoors without masks, and this man right here has the virus. Now, apparently, there is new reporting that's come out. I'm not sure if I have a story on this. Yes, I do. So, Amy Coney Barrett had been diagnosed with COVID-19 earlier this summer, but has since recovered. 3 officials tell the Post, tested daily as SCOTUS nominee. So apparently she already had the virus, which nobody knew about until today when there were all these questions around Mike Lee hanging out with Amy Coney Barrett. So apparently she already had the virus. That doesn't mean that she is immune. It potentially means that she could be immune or more immune than she would be otherwise, but still, it doesn't mean that she's 100% immune. She could still have gotten the virus here when she was meeting with Mike Lee, but no clear answers on that yet. But so far, it seems like she's fine. But according to CDC guidelines, Barrett must quarantine even with negative test results, which should put into question this nominating process. As Julian Castro here tweets out, the president has contracted a deadly virus. A senator on the Judiciary Committee contracted the virus. A pending Supreme Court nominee contracted the virus earlier this year. The Senate cannot hold confirmation hearings in person or virtual until this virus is under control. I am with Julian Castro. So will we see a delay to this process? I think it's more likely now than it would have been otherwise. But knowing Mitch McConnell, knowing the GOP, nothing is going to stop them from trying to ram this Supreme Court pick through. So I doubt it. If they can push it through, they're going to push it through. But it is an extra barrier or obstacle that they didn't have in front of them before. But lesson here being, wear masks, be safe, physically distance. Right now, a lot of countries are seeing a second wave. The U.S. is still basically in their first wave. I mean, it really hasn't dropped all that much since the initial amount of cases came out in the U.S. But you still got to be vigilant. You got to be aware. So physically distance as much as possible and be safe. And especially if you are ever indoors anywhere in public, make sure you're wearing a mask and you don't stand close to people for too long. The last thing you want to do is not experience the end of what this election turns out to be. I mean, it's been crazy, but don't you want to see the end of this? I know I do. So stay safe, ensure you are alive and well. We can all witness the end of this election or the end of this year together. Alrighty. It's probably the biggest story of the day, and it's not even going to be a separate segment because that is just my live stream story. But more coming up, as I said at the beginning. Get to a fantastic author and her thoughts on how Trump could exploit this diagnosis, as well as a number of other stories I previewed at the beginning. But before I go on, let me grab some of these chats that I heard coming in. Evelyn Lee Barney says, sorry, I'm going all Schadenfreude, though. No, I don't wish him dead. Nobody should wish anybody dead. I don't think it really solves anything. And as I said at the beginning, I want to see Trump lose in the election as a healthy human being. I want him to witness his massive loss. Juna McGrath says, COVID Drago, quote, if he dies, he dies. Swirly Swirl says, which is the super spreader, Hope or Trump? That's a great question. It seems that, I mean, you could have multiple super spreaders, but it does appear like Hope Hicks had at least the symptoms or had symptoms of the virus before Trump did. So, and also was tested positive before Trump was. So who knows? And it's possible Hope Hicks got it from somebody else in the White House or somebody outside the White. Like, who knows who the patient zero is within that circle? But regardless, whoever they came in contact with need to be tested. Decky G, this is hilarious. Says, our thoughts and prayers are with COVID-19 at this time. God damn. After Fractures says, oh, wow. Very generous super chat here. I got 2 massive super chats already in the first half hour of this stream. Thank you so much. Wow. Thank you. Says, I don't know how you kept a straight face covering this. I read it at 2 a.m. and I'm pretty sure my laughter woke up the neighbors. Look, there's of course the part of it where, I mean, this is the man that made it way worse than it already was. Trump made the pandemic much, much worse. So it's not like, he has cancer and we're laughing about, or anybody's laughing about him having cancer. This is about a virus that he helped spread. In April, he put an end to sending everybody 5 masks in the mail. The USPS had this plan written up. They were ready. It was approved. Trump stopped it back in April. So if people had those masks, if he took the masks seriously, took the virus seriously, gave people real financial help, maybe like a UBI so they can actually pay their bills month to month and not have to worry about potentially being furloughed or not having their job for a few months, then we'd be in a much, or I should say the U.S. would be in a much better situation. But because of him, his direct actions led to tens of thousands more dead and millions more getting the virus. So if you're wondering why, I mean, if there's anybody here that, feels bad about anyone laughing or finding this at least a bit humorous, that's why. It's because he brought this on himself. That said, as I've already discussed, I don't want him to die. I don't think, even apart from the humanity aspect, I think he's going to lose the election, and I want him to witness his loss in the election. All right, putting a pause there to get to the next story, and then I'll grab more of those chats after. But of course, I have to prep this story, which I did not do. All right. Also just checking my hard drive space, because sometimes... No, I'm good. Okay. All right. Author, journalist, and activist Naomi Klein was on Democracy Now!, where she discussed how Trump might exploit his COVID diagnosis. Watch this.
As you know, Amy, I also have spent a lot of my my writing career
Let me just boost the audio for you live people, because every single one of these clips are way too low.
As you know, Amy, I also have spent a lot of my my writing career researching moments of shock and how they are exploited by the powerful. That's the thesis behind the shock doctrine. And so I find myself thinking a lot about that this morning, because as we speak, there is no doubt that Trump is meeting with his advisors and has been since they knew about this, since they knew about Hope Hicks, trying to figure out how to exploit this, including, I'm afraid, using it as an excuse to do what they have been trying to do relentlessly, which is discredit elections that Trump is terrified he is going to lose. So we, as we think about what this means, we need to be prepared for the president using the fact that he's having to cancel campaign events for 2 weeks to try to further delegitimize elections that he very likely will lose. I think we need to remember that this president has been campaigning for re-election since the day after he was inaugurated, and since he started circulating false photographs of the rallies that supposedly greeted him. He has had plenty of time to campaign. He has done nothing but campaign for re-election since he became president. So I think that, we're seeing a lot of Democrats sending thoughts and prayers this morning. I really think we should see Trump getting COVID as the epidemiological equivalent of a mass shooting, where the shooter opens fire on the crowd and then turns the gun on himself. This is not a tragic accident. It is a crime scene and should be treated as such.
That is the most perfect explanation of Trump getting the virus. Naomi Klein really does have a way with words. This is not a tragic accident. It is a crime scene. Trump has helped to spread the virus through his inaction and through his action. As I discussed in a earlier during this live stream that I'm recording, Trump put an end to the masks. The USPS had a plan to send out 5 masks to every household. Trump stopped that, and that was back in April, leading to tens of thousands of more dying, millions more getting the virus, and now it's come back to bite him. So this is not a tragic accident. This is a crime scene that Trump himself exacerbated. Now, on to the point where she discusses where Naomi Klein discusses how Trump might use the virus to his advantage. I mean, this works regardless whether he recovers or not. So if he doesn't recover, and he remains sick, he will attempt to gain sympathy. He will try to use it as a way to delegitimize the results if he loses, acting like, oh, it wasn't a fair election because I couldn't campaign. I had to be home. I was sick in bed. So he'll use it that way. If he does recover, the other way he can use it is to simply downplay the virus and putting even more people in danger and still delegitimizing the election results because he wasn't able to campaign for 14 days while he was isolated. So this is, if you know anything about the GOP playbook and Trump specifically, regardless of outcomes, regardless of what they do or don't do, they always find a way around it. They always find a way to use it to their advantage. And that's the same thing that's going to happen again with this diagnosis. So regardless of what happens, regardless of the outcome here, Trump is going to use this virus as a way to delegitimize the election results when he loses. Right now, he's being destroyed in national polling. He will absolutely lose the popular vote. The only questions around the Electoral College, but even then, Biden is doing very, very well in all the swing states against Trump right now in polling. But again, a lot of people are going to also, Democratic voters are going to vote by mail. A lot of those votes won't be counted until after the election. So if same-day voting falls with Trump or sides with Trump, then he will attempt to claim victory, attempt to delegitimize the mail-in ballots. And I mean, there are so many. He has a ton of different ideas, many different ways that he will try to either delegitimize the results, try and flip the election, try to steal the election. There's a great Atlantic piece that I discussed in a video last week that goes over a number of them. But COVID-19 just gives him an extra way to try and delegitimize the results. Okay. All right, let me grab some chats before going on to the Amazon story. Coffee is for closers, says Trump will exploit this one way or another. Absolutely. Car Wash Freak 97 says Dems might want to consider term limits on courts. Yes. Yes, they should. I'm pretty sure a Democrat has introduced that idea. I forget who it was, but someone's introduced, let me look it up. I think it's 18-year term limits. Andrew Yang? So Andrew Yang has raised that, but I'm pretty sure somebody either in the House or House Democrats propose 18-year term limits for Supreme Court. There we go. So that's an idea that's been raised. Bill sponsored by Ro Khanna, Don Beyer, and Joe Kennedy. All right. We'll see if that goes anywhere. Of course, the Senate's not going to, approve that. But in the future, under a potential Biden presidency, it is something worth exploring for sure. Alhambre Simnombre says, do you think it would be appropriate to celebrate if he does die? I personally might have a small goodbye party. Let's cross that bridge when we get there. I don't know him, so I don't care. I'm concerned about the people that are, your average everyday person getting the virus. I have a story coming up about Amazon workers. How many of them have had the virus? So I'm concerned about the average person. Trump has all the healthcare in the world. Honestly, I don't care. What I'm looking at this as, he's a political figure, so I care about the actual impact on society. And that's why I don't have a real answer here, because I don't know what that impact would be. I think it's better if he loses in the election, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Lawrence says, long time no see. Long time no see? What are you saying? I'm here every Friday. Oh, is it because you're on Twitch? Yeah. I took a little break from Twitch this week. I didn't have a lot of time. I was overwhelmed, overwhelmed with work and news. I will be back next week on Twitch in the morning. And in fact, Saturday, there is a Green Party leadership result coming in. The Green Party of Canada, their leadership race is commences on Saturday, I think 6 p.m. I may stream that on Twitch, possibly, because I am going to watch that. So I figure if I'm going to watch it, I might as well stream it. But the reason I don't know yet is because the Conservative leadership race that just recently happened in Canada, that went on for, I think, like 9 hours because there were delays for various reasons. So I don't want that happening again. But if it's going to be like a quick, hour or two, then yeah, I'll jump on Twitch and stream that leadership race. The Kiwi Bird says the Schadenfreude accumulated from the ever-growing list is too strong to resist. They let 200,000 plus die from this, and now it's karmically haunting them. Yes, it is. Elnadi says, "Hi Dave, just saying hello, and it was nice watching the debate on your channel. Very good work. Have a good weekend." The Mimico fans. Shout out Mimico. Thank you, Elnadi. Thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoyed the debate coverage. Actually, question for the audience: should I have somebody on for the next debate as well? So during that first debate, I had if there's going to be a next debate, but if there is going to be a next debate, should I have a guest on? So the first one I had on the Surfs, I had Lance on from the Surfs, and we watched it together. The only downside to that is our stream was about, I think, like 5 or 10 seconds off. So he would react to something like 8 seconds after I saw it, which made it hard to have any kind of conversation during the debate. So the one benefit to streaming alone is I can, when there's moments of silence or breaks or something happening that I can talk over, then I can make comments and talk over it and not have to worry about impacting his stream, because he was also streaming on Twitch at the same time. So would you rather see me alone during that next debate? Or I should say the VP debate, which should happen. So that is next week. Would you rather see me alone or have a guest on? Let me know. And you know what? If I can check the chat right now, I'm just seeing yes. So people are saying yes, have people on. All right, I will see. Someone's saying no guest. No guest. All right, it's seems 50-50 right now. I can't sit here, unfortunately, looking at the chat. Alone. I'm seeing more alone now. Vosh is going to do his own stream. He's not going to come online. That wouldn't make any sense. Unless we can co-stream it. But no. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. It seems to be 50-50 at the moment. All right, I got to move on. Pausing on the super chats, going to the next story. Once it is prepped, and there's actually a number of links to this. All right, you're gonna have to bear with me during this one, as it's gonna require some editing and post, as I'm gonna be jumping around a little bit during while sourcing one of these stories, just so you know. All right. Amazon has finally released or revealed how many of their frontline workers have tested positive for COVID-19. And it's a pretty big number. So I'm going to show you that information right now. And I'm also going to get to a response from a labor group as well as a congresswoman. First up, here's the number. Amazon says more than 19,000 workers got COVID-19. 19,000. Now, the actual number here, 19,816, so almost 20,000, confirmed or presumed COVID-19 cases across its frontline employees in the U.S., or 1.44% of its 1.37 million frontline Amazon and Whole Foods employees. Now, this information comes months after labor groups, politicians, and regulators repeatedly pressed Amazon to disclose how many of its workers were infected by COVID-19. Early on in the pandemic, warehouse workers raised concerns that Amazon wasn't doing enough to protect them from getting sick and called for facilities with confirmed cases to be shut down. Lacking data from Amazon, warehouse workers compiled a crowdsourced database of infections based on notifications of new cases at facilities across the U.S. So Amazon's own workers, their warehouse workers, weren't even privy to the information about who was impacted. So they had to actually put together this data themselves and try and piece together how many people got the virus. Now, this total as well does not include its network of third-party delivery drivers, which handle a portion of last mile deliveries. It's unclear how many contracted drivers make up Amazon's third-party delivery network, but the company previously said it has added nearly 85,000 jobs across the U.S., Canada, UK, Spain, and Germany. So delivery drivers obviously are a major part of the Amazon operations, the ones that come into the most contact with people that are outside of the warehouses and potentially exposed to people out in public when it comes to delivering these packages. And those numbers are not even included in that 19, nearly 20,000 number. Now, Athena, a coalition of U.S. activist groups campaigning for greater regulatory oversight over Amazon, called for immediate investigations into the company by public health officials, as well as regular reporting on the number of employees with COVID-19. Athena's director, Danya Rajendra, said in a statement, quote, Amazon allowed COVID-19 to spread like wildfire in its facilities, risking the health of tens of thousands of people who work at Amazon, as well as their family members, neighbors, and friends. Amazon is, in no uncertain terms, a threat to public health. Now, there's a lot of talk right now, of course, of Trump getting the virus, of people in Trump's circle getting the virus, but they have all the health care, all the help they need. Amazon workers are the ones that are struggling. They're the ones that often lack any real health insurance, any real coverage. They're the ones that have to pay out of pocket when it comes to out-of-pocket expenses related to healthcare costs, when it comes to pharmaceuticals. So these are the sorts of people that I care about. The average worker that has the virus. This is why it was important to take this virus seriously from the start, because the people that don't have the resource to be able to protect themselves, or don't have the ability to just stay home and, skip work or leave their job because they have to pay for their family, they have to pay to live, those are the people that are most impacted, most affected. And Amazon, run, of course, by Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world, he has the resources, had the resources to take care of his employees here. Yet, almost 20,000 got the virus. Now, a little more here. Bryce Covert. So actually, I think there's more on this piece. So a state-by-state breakdown of the cases showed that the highest rate of infection of Amazon employees was in Minnesota, where 3.17% of Amazon workers were presumed to have caught COVID-19, double the rate of infection in the broader population. However, the data did not give absolute numbers of infected workers in each state or whether workers in warehouses were more vulnerable. So Minnesota saw it worst here, and that is why Amazon workers in Minnesota, or at least part of the reason, why they have walked off the job to protest a coworker who was fired after protesting safety conditions. You see, these workers directly impacted the most. Saw double the rate of infection in the broader population. And somebody actually got fired for protesting the lack of safety in their warehouse. So it's good to see Amazon workers stand up for that employee and protest his firing there. Now, Pramila Jayapal, who of course is the congresswoman for the 7th District in Washington, which encompasses Seattle, she tweeted out, Amazon has doubled its profits during this pandemic at the expense of the health and safety of warehouse workers and their families. I continue to stand with Amazon workers and their fight for hazard pay and paid leave. So having support like this in Congress is so important when it comes to trying to win these various battles. When trying to fight massive corporations with all the power in the world, it is very tough unless workers band together and, in addition to that, have help from within the walls of Washington to be able to push some serious changes through. So it's good to see Pramila Jayapal, and of course you're going to see others as well, people like Bernie Sanders, stand up for these workers and fight for better conditions. Okay. Let me grab some more chats. And then the next story coming up is former health insurance executive discusses how the private insurance industry is going to try and benefit from COVID-19. First, though, some of these chats. After Fractures says Pence's religion saved him. If he was allowed around Hope Hicks, he would have COVID. I guess religious fundamentalists were right. That's funny. Yes, because Pence apparently not allowed to hang out with women outside the home. At least not alone, but or like out for a dinner or something, like for a meeting. But yes, Pence has for the most part this past week apparently been not near the president or the White House. So he was tested for the virus this morning, tested negative, so he's fine. Meaning that this VP debate is on, and I am pretty excited to watch that. Much more than the second debate between Biden and Trump. Sunil Motwani says, could this help Trump, telling his supporters COVID is no big deal? Yeah, I discussed this earlier. If Trump, I wouldn't say that helps Trump necessarily. That would make this pandemic much worse. If Trump recovers, is perfectly fine, never has any real serious symptoms, it's going to have the impact of the people that already don't think that COVID is a big deal. They're going to continue thinking that because Trump, who is overweight and old, survived it. But considering that his staff have already put out that he has mild symptoms, tells me that he probably has some serious symptoms, because otherwise they'd be saying that, oh, he's not even feeling it right now, he's just isolated, he's doing fine. But to admit that he has symptoms at all, I should say, I think says something. Tyler Cuss says, imagine saying thoughts and prayers to someone that we called Hitler. There was a lot of that. Like, it's one thing to not wish someone's death. That's one thing. It's another to say, oh, pray for their speedy recovery. Rachel Maddow. Did you guys see her tweet this morning? Maybe I can find it. This is somebody who has consistently called Donald Trump a Russian asset. Maybe not in those direct words, though. If not in those direct words, I'd be shocked, as that's basically been the coverage for the past 3 years. And if you thought somebody was so dangerous, is a Russian asset, would you put out a message like this once I can find it? Did she delete it? Maybe she deleted it. Hold up. I'm scrolling through her Twitter timeline right now. Oh, here we go. Nope, did not delete it. It's right here. God bless the president and the first lady. God bless. God bless the president and the first lady. If you pray, please pray for their speedy and complete recovery, and for everyone infected everywhere. This virus is horrific and merciless. No one would wish its wrath on anyone. We must get its spread under control. Enough. The reason why it is not under control is because of the person that she is God blessing. Please pray for the speedy recovery. Again, I'm not saying that she should be tweeting out, I hope you die. Like, obviously, it's going too far. But this is a little much. This is laying it on pretty thick. I have a feeling this is mostly just for performance purposes. So maybe, conservatives can't be like, oh, why hasn't Rachel Maddow said anything? So, as usual, the liberal audience, the liberal establishment always bow to conservative will, always care more about what conservatives are going to say than progressives. So that's why she's out here doing this. But it's a little much. Anyways, moving on. Arbitro Pathak says Trump belongs in the WWE. He should head there soon. Sean Kennedy says, how do you think MAGA heads will rationalize Trump's COVID in their feeble, incredulous minds? I don't even want to speculate. I'm sure they already got some conspiracies brewing. I have no idea. I don't know. I got to admit, when it comes to the conservative mindset, or I should say the more conspiracy-minded, crazy mindset, I don't know how to think like that. So it's really hard to put myself in that kind of mindset and think about how they would rationalize this. I have no clue. It's a lot easier for me to deal with, people that are greedy or neoliberals from that way of thinking. But when it comes to fascists and people that are just completely insane, I don't know where to begin. Mikey Kingston says, get Kyle, Avengers live stream. Baba Booey, Baba Booey. No. Kyle does like serious research during these protests. Not protests. During these, I said protests. During these debates. Everybody has kind of their own, like when it comes to streamers, or when it comes to people that do this work, I don't even like asking people to come on the show because I know how busy I am. So the idea of asking anybody to like spend time doing my show, I feel bad for that person because I know they have stuff to do. And I don't want to put them in a position where, they have to consider, are they going to be able to do the work they have to do if they come on my show? Like, I don't want to put people in that position. So when it comes to inviting people on, if you've noticed, I rarely have people on, and it's largely for that reason. I'm busy all the time, and I can't imagine the schedules of other people that do this work. They're, I imagine, also busy all the time. So it's hard to make the space for combining forces like that. Vernon Hector says, no death, but want him to get really bad diarrhea. All right. I think that's the most fair I've seen so far. Don't want him to die, but really bad diarrhea. All right. Here's the thing, though. With the amount of KFC that man eats, I'm pretty sure he already has really bad diarrhea. So that's something he's had well before getting the virus. So I'm not sure that's really wishing anything that he doesn't already have. But that said, I do appreciate your measured approach. Thank you, Vernon. Kevin Slim says Boris Johnson contracted corona and spent a lengthy time in the ICU. Also get a haircut, hippie. I'm seeing mixed comments on that. Some say get a haircut. Others say don't cut my hair at all. So I'm going to stick with what people in my life tell me to do. And right now, my partner is saying don't cut my hair. So I'm leaving it the way it is. But Boris Johnson, yeah, I discussed Boris earlier. When they first discussed him having the virus, of course, if you don't know, Boris Johnson, UK Prime Minister, when he first got it, they claimed, oh, he has, he's barely showing any symptoms. He's doing fine, just some mild symptoms. And then days later, he was in the ICU and was breathing oxygen. So it could all, it could all come crashing down pretty quickly. Or it could go the other way, as most people do, and just have a full recovery. But even in that situation, a lot of people that recover, I think about half of them, still deal with ongoing health issues. There are long-term health impacts to the virus, which is why I've discussed in my COVID videos. I try to bring up the fact that the death rate isn't the only thing. You have to think about, when there's been millions that have had the virus, there are long-term health impacts for those that have survived it. So it's everything from insomnia to I don't want to speculate here because I've read these off before. If I can just find. Here we go. So fatigue, cough, shortness of breath, headache, joint pain. These are all symptoms that continue to linger after having the virus, after it's out of your system. So people continue experiencing health effects, which goes to show you, surviving it isn't everything. You could be experiencing COVID for years to come, potentially. It's still early on in the life of this virus, so we don't really know the full extent of the impact once you've had it. Okay. Do I have time for one more question? No. Pausing there. Going to get to the next story. Which I have to prep right now. A former health insurance executive has discussed how he thinks private insurance will attempt to benefit from COVID-19 going forward. Now, as you may have already seen, the private healthcare industry has already benefited from the coronavirus. Let me give you some examples here. So pharmaceuticals like Remdesivir, which you see here, Gilead's coronavirus treatment, which is Remdesivir, to cost $3,120 per U.S. patient with private insurance. So this is crazy on its own. But if you compare it to other countries, they're able to. Here's an example. Drug maker said it will sell Remdesivir for $3.90 per vial to governments of developed countries around the world. Yet, for U.S. private insurance companies, $5.20 per vial. And this is because other countries are able to negotiate down their drug prices. Whereas in the U.S., pharmaceutical companies basically get to price these pills at whatever they want. So you've already seen companies take advantage of the lack of protections, health protections in the U.S. That's one example. Another example, U.S. health insurers doubled profits in second quarter amid pandemic. So this is, it is insane that this is a healthcare system where private healthcare companies benefit when masses of people are dying and sick. If this doesn't tell you that you need to change the system, I don't know what needs to happen. So obviously, as I've discussed a million times, the US has to move to a single-payer Medicare for all system. It would eliminate this for-profit motive in the healthcare industry. But let me get to Wendell Potter now. So Wendell Potter, as I've discussed before, I've discussed his comments on my show before. He is a former health insurance executive. turned Medicare for All supporter. So he is now somebody who is essentially a whistleblower on the private insurance industry and discusses openly about the thought process that goes through the minds of these executives at these private insurance companies or these private healthcare companies. And he put out this tweet thread on how these companies will try and benefit from COVID-19 going forward. So he tweets out here, here's an interesting irony. Everyone around Trump who gets COVID-19 may be in big trouble if they get their wish and gut Obamacare. Why? In the future, COVID will likely be classified by private insurers as a pre-existing condition. I know. I used to be an insurance exec. I sincerely hope and pray the president, first lady, and those around them who've contracted COVID will get well. I hope and pray the same for all people here and around the world. Now, here's my concern about what they're doing to Obamacare and how it will affect those with COVID. I know firsthand that before the ACA, insurers kept a list of 400 plus conditions they used to either reject applicants or charge them more than they could afford to pay for coverage. If I were Hope Hicks, I might be concerned that my boss wants to get back to that system. The conditions of my old company would use it to deny care ranged from ones that many babies were born with to the many forms of heart disease and cancer. They also included things like diabetes, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and even acne. Joe Biden was right when he said that more than 100 million people in the U.S. have a pre-existing condition insurers could use against them. More than 100 million. That's 1/3 the population. Trump says it wasn't true, but his own CDC said as many as 129 million of us have at least one. And now he and his loved ones do too. If you think the president can use an executive order to force insurers to cover pre-existing conditions, you don't know the industry like I do. They don't want to cover you if they might have to pay big medical bills. They want to make money and reward shareholders and execs. As for COVID, the millions of Americans who've had it could end up with one or many pre-existing conditions. Without the ACA, insurers will shun them. This practice drove the number of uninsured in America to 50 million before ACA was passed, and that was before a pandemic. But this won't just screw over the president and his associates. It will kill and bankrupt many Americans. Please think about that when you vote. So Wendell Potter here going through exactly why it is so important to cover pre-existing conditions. And look, we can have this discussion separate from Medicare for All. Obviously, under Medicare for All, everyone's covered regardless. I live in a single payer system. I've never had any issue going to the doctor. I had surgery once. It was a very simple process, like one sheet of paper. It's planned ahead of time. It was a minor surgery, so I didn't have to get the surgery immediately. A minor surgery planned ahead of time. On the day it's planned, I go, get it, come home. That's it. No calls with insurance companies, no insuring it, like nothing else. I just go and come home. This is why I don't think Americans truly understand, at least those not in the know, truly don't understand how much better life is in a country where you never have to think about healthcare. That's maybe the biggest benefit, is it's never on your mind. I never have to consider it because it's always going to be covered regardless. Whatever I need, it's going to be covered. And even when it comes to pharmaceuticals, I do have to pay out of pocket for that. But most employers have some form of private insurance that covers pharmaceuticals. And even then, though, like because I'm self-employed, I don't have any coverage for private or for pharmaceuticals. And out-of-pocket expenses for that is next to nothing. The most I've paid for a bottle of pills is like $30. That's the most I've paid. And that's for, a month of medication. So the endless benefits to a Medicare for All system. And look, I know my audience, I discussed this a million times while Bernie was running in the primary. My audience already knows, for the most part, how awesome Medicare for All would be if you had it, and how awesome a single payer system is. In addition, there are all these benefits that come up in my brain all the time when I'm discussing this issue. There is so much that I often forget because for me, it's just second nature to have healthcare covered. But, another aspect of this is that because everyone is paying into the same system in a single payer system, that means that the wealthiest people in the country, have the same healthcare coverage as you do. Your Congress people, the same healthcare coverage that you do. So how bad is healthcare really going to get if the wealthiest people in the country and your Congress people have the exact same healthcare plan that you do? You need a comprehensive single-payer Medicare for all system. Now, the fact that you don't have that right now isn't the only reason for the explosion of cases in the U.S. compared to other countries. That I think is part of it, of course, but also, you know, the lack of financial help for people. People feel the need, they have to go back to work. They have to work because they have to provide. And other countries, you see wage subsidies. I think France is covering like 84%, 85% of all wages in the country. Canada has $2,000 a month, what's called the CERB, which is a benefit that you can get if you lost your job or had to stay home to take care of somebody who had COVID, or you had it yourself. So $2,000 a month. Americans have had what? I think one check and expanded unemployment insurance, but ultimately not a whole lot to take care of yourself. So that's the other aspect of it. People feel the need to go out and make money. They end up getting the virus from someone else at work, come home, give it to their family, and that's how you see the numbers explode the way they do. But that said, just another reminder here of how having a for-profit, the for-profit interest, private companies embedded in healthcare, how it doesn't benefit anyone except for the wealthiest that work in those companies. All right. Nice. 2 fun stories left. What Canadians think of Biden versus Trump, and also a poll update on the race as well. Before I do all that, let me grab some chats. Here we go. Pierre Boudreau says, "Hey, David, big fan of yours. I just ran in the provincial election in New Brunswick as a Green candidate in a Lib fortress and got 15% at 22 years old. You're an inspiration, so I wanted to thank you. Keep up." That's amazing. 15% is huge. When I ran in as a Green Party candidate, got it. I'm not even sure the percentage. I got 1,420 votes. I know that because 420. So I'm sure that was nowhere near what your 15% was. So congrats. That is solid, especially for a liberal riding. Great job, and thank you. I appreciate your kind words and donation. And keep it up. Keep going. Half the battle is name recognition. If people see your name on that ballot year after year and they get to know who you are, the better your chances next time. Cody sends a generous super chat as well, saying, "Excited for the VP debate. Not a huge Kamala fan policy-wise, but she's definitely tough and will not take any crap from Pence. Quote, everybody has a plan till they get punched in the mouth. Mike Tyson." Yeah. Kamala's the kind of person where, you know, when it comes to fighting her from the left, I can't stand her. But when it comes to her fighting people on the right, I love her. So she can be a solid force against Republicans for sure. We've seen it in the past with the House committee hearings, Senate hearings. So we're going to see it for sure in this debate. Dustin DPS says, "Hey, David, joined late. What would happen if Trump and Biden are incapacitated from COVID and are off the ballot? Sorry if you already covered this. What would happen if Trump and Biden?" I joked about this today. What if Trump and Biden both got the virus and couldn't? I have no idea. I don't know. I imagine, I guess it'd be a race between Pence and Harris. Wild stuff. It'd be wild for sure. But yeah, I guess that's what it would have to be. But this is certainly unprecedented, so it's hard to know exactly how that play out. Kevin McAlpin says your stance on Guess is incredibly Canadian. I know I'm sure it is, isn't it? I can't help it. I just feel bad. I always feel like I'm wasting people's time. I've always had that problem. I feel like no one likes me. I feel like I'm wasting everybody's time. That's my entire life. I mean, I did grow up with serious social phobia. I'm like serious social phobia. Like, did not leave the house social phobia. I eventually clearly got a little better, but still, there's remnants of that in me all the time. So, especially when it comes to asking anybody for anything, any kind of favor, it's almost impossible for me to do that. I mean, one of the main reasons I want to be able to hire somebody, which is why I love when you have donations and, you know, new members and patrons, is because I need to be able to pay that person. But the reason I want to hire somebody is because I want them to be able to book the guests. I don't want to have to be the one to ask somebody if they want to be on the show, because I feel bad doing that. But one day I'll either get over it or I'll hire someone to do it for me. Mikea Lapierre says Team Big Hair. Yes, indeed. I never thought I'd be on Team Big Hair, but here we are. Jose Nina Wanka says thank you for the hard work you do. Thank you, Jose. Trudy says Republicans won't notice out loud that Trump is a sick fool. Do you mean voters won't notice out loud that Trump is a sick fool, or do you mean the politicians? Regardless, I'm sure they've acknowledged that he's sick, but I'm sure they're hoping that he recovers quickly. Mama Bear says your hair makes you look like a Disney prince. All right, look, that's pro big hair right there. That's a pro big hair super chat. Thank you, Mama Bear. R. Andrew says nothing and sends $5. Thank you, Andrew. Michelle Smale says, how about having a candidate like Marquita Bradshaw on to co-host the debate? When it comes to co-hosting a debate kind of deal, I rather it's somebody I know, because I don't know Marquita. I'd have to interview someone like that to before I am familiar with that person enough to have them on as a co-host. But I'm likely just going to do the VP debate alone, so I can talk over it a little bit, not completely. I know people want to watch the debate, but just so I'm a little more free to give comments, because I felt, again, it's hard when you're syncing up with somebody else streaming it, because your debate sync's going to be out of whack, so you don't want to say anything that may spoil what they're about to see. All that weirdness with having to stream a live video. So I'll likely just do it alone. Michael Karkoran, I think I said that right, says invite Christo or smaller creator. Also, what kind of phone do you use your iPhone? Do you use iPhone or Android? I'm an iPhone guy. I just have, it's just easier at this point. I started with iPhone as my first smartphone. So when it comes to Apple, once you're in the Apple ecosystem, it's really hard to pry yourself out of it. I would be losing too much, missing too much, and have to relearn Android. That does not interest me. All right, pausing there for the next story. All right, this is fun. So Canadians have weighed in, Joe Biden or Donald Trump. Let me show you the results, and I'm also going to show you the breakdown by party affiliation, if I'm saying that right, as well. So first, here is the question that went out. If you could vote in the U.S. presidential election, would you vote for Joe Biden or Donald Trump? The results, 84% of Canadians, Joe Biden is their pick. Now, to contrast this, right now, the race in the U.S., Biden's up by about 7 to 10 points nationally. Biden would do much better in Canada, as you see. And part of this is, of course, look, Canadians have a little more awareness when it comes to certain issues, especially something like, say, healthcare, where we have a single payer system. We know it's not some crazy socialist idea that's going to destroy the country. No, it's fantastic. That's just one example. But also, I think, Trump's narcissism, the way he acts in public, the way he treats other people is definitely also a big part of that. Canadians generally don't like to see that kind of behavior, at least not in public. Maybe they're that way in their own lives, but they want to see their leaders be leaders, and Trump clearly does not display that. But let me break it down here by I thought I have party as well, but this is by province. I think party is also in here, but we'll get there. So by province, Atlantic Canada, 90% go with really across the board here. Joe Biden in Quebec, Joe Biden Ontario, Joe Biden Manitoba, Joe Biden Alberta, Joe Biden BC. So even in Alberta, which some call our Texas, even Alberta, big support there for Joe Biden over Trump. Now, I believe there is also, if I get this out of the way, there's more breakdowns. All right, more than I thought. Here you go. By age, 18 to 34, Joe Biden, 88%. 35 to 54, a little less, but Joe Biden, 78. And 55 plus, back up, 86%. So I don't know what's going on with the 35 to 54 here, but got to get up here with the rest of us. Here we go. By party. This is what I find to be the most interesting. The NDP, which is the more left, more pro-labor party. Their roots are in the labor movement. The NDP here, backing Biden over Trump, 94% to 6%. I got to say, I don't know who these 6% are, though I could imagine, since we're dealing with a lot of unions here when it comes to NDP support, blue-collar workers at times can have a little more conservative views when it comes to cultural issues. So potentially that's what the 6% is. But regardless, if they're back in the NDP is not conservative when it comes to cultural issues either. So yeah, that 6% is kind of perplexing. But liberals here, 93% back Biden, 7% backing Trump. The Bloc Québécois, 91% backing Biden, 9% backing Trump. The Green Party, 89% Biden, 11% Trump. This is a little interesting. So the Green Party right now, as it stands, can be seen as an eco-capitalist party. Right now, there is a leadership race in Canada for the Green Party leader that commences on Saturday. So we're going to find out who the new leader for the Green Party is. If it's somebody who I'm supporting, Dimitri Lascaris, he's an eco-socialist. I imagine this number may change a little bit, though Joe Biden, maybe not, because there is also plenty of criticisms to go around when it comes to Joe Biden. And but still, if you got the two choices here, you got to go with Biden over Trump as a Green supporter. But anyways, last one here, the outlier, the Conservative Party, still backing Joe Biden, 59% to 41%. So even with Canada's Conservative Party backs Joe Biden in bigger numbers than America does as a whole. Showing you how far right the conversation is in the U.S. Now, I don't want to act, holier than thou. There are plenty of issues in Canada, plenty of issues that we're not discussing. When it comes to foreign policy, especially, the discussion is so narrow when it comes to foreign policy discussions in Canada, and wealth inequality as well. But especially when it comes to some of the cultural stuff, it's obvious to anyone that watches both politics in the U.S. and in Canada that what's happening in the U.S., the Overton window is so far to the right, it is insane. To the point that even our Conservative Party backs Biden in bigger numbers than Americans do as a whole. So there you go. If Canadians could vote, they would likely swing the election for Joe Biden, but they can't. So this is really all just for fun. Okay. I should do more videos just for fun. Those are a lot more enjoyable than having to discuss people dying because they don't have health care. But that's this job. Most of the stuff I cover is depressing. All right, let me grab some chats. And then I'll do a poll breakdown of the most recent polls. Or I should say the poll averages. All right, where was I here? Here we go. Nancy Bernard says, thank you for your argument about why I should vote for Biden while living in the bluest city, San Francisco, in the bluest state, California. I look forward to fighting Biden and Harris. There you go. And also, the other reason you should be voting if you're in San Francisco is to vote for Shahid Buttar over Nancy Pelosi. Because Pelosi's your congressperson. So make sure you vote, apart from the top of the ticket, which obviously, yes, you got to vote out the fascist. But you got to think about the rest of the ballot as well. So definitely, if you are in fact in Pelosi's district, and it appears you are, make sure you vote for Shahid Buttar. It is 2 Democrats on that ticket. He won the jungle primary. I think it's the first time in a while, anyways, that Pelosi has faced a Democrat in an election like this. So you got to go out and vote for Shahid Buttar over Nancy Pelosi. Super Porthouse says, all right, you can keep your hair. All right, thank you. And generous donations here. Thank you so much. Super Porthouse, if that is how you pronounce your name, is super generous. Thank you so much. And I will use this money to maintain my hair. So if I'm not going to cut it with the previous money, I'll save that for later when I do cut it eventually. I will use this money to maintain this hair. Thank you. GFR says, thank you, brother, for your work and dedication. Thank you so much for your donation. Jay Pearson says, love you. Thank you, Jay. Love your support. JFR says, learning how to do this, I guess I'll do it 4 times. 4 times, is there a way to get anything beyond Schumer and Pelosi? They are not our ally. I'll do it 4 times. I'm not sure what 4 times is about. Oh, because you keep giving me super chats. Thank you. Oh, you have I see what you're saying. You have a full paragraph here. All right. Learning how to do this, I guess I'll do it 4 times. Is there a way to get anything beyond Schumer and Pelosi? They are not our ally. Yes, Americans have been dumbed down. Little critical thinking. Education needs a reboot. Okay, again, thanks. Yes, Americans have been dumbed down. Little critical thinking. Education needs a reboot. Is there any way to get anything beyond Schumer and Pelosi? You have to replace them. As I've discussed, yeah, you have to. The answer is probably not, which is why you have to vote them out. You have to primary them, which we've seen several successful examples so far. Whether it's Joe Crowley getting voted out by AOC, Eliot Engel getting voted out by Jamal Bowman, Lacey Clay getting voted out by Cori Bush. And these are all people who are, prominent members of the Democratic Party. So keep doing that. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, the issue with the Democratic Party is the leadership. It's not that, the party isn't a person. The party is whoever runs the party. So if it's Schumer and Pelosi as, 2 top leaders in the party, then yeah, it's going to be their agenda. And they're going to have, their more conservative caucuses back their agenda. But if you vote out those sorts of people and scare many of these more conservative Democrats into supporting better positions, as you are also going to begin to see. As look, these Democrats are not dumb. They're seeing their friends getting knocked out. And they're going to be a little more aware now that, hey, maybe they should support Medicare for all, or else I'm going to face a progressive challenger. So, you know, it's a process. It doesn't all happen at once, but it is in process right now, and you're seeing a number of successful outcomes. Tamika Johnson says, thank you for your consistent work. Thank you, Tamika. And Junior McGrath says, I think a big reason Biden does well in Canada is because Canada doesn't have Fox News. Yeah, I should have mentioned that as well. Media is a big part of it for sure. You know, we have conservative aspects of media for sure. Our discussions are definitely relegated to a, you know, more status quo neoliberal kind of discussion. As I discussed earlier, when it comes to foreign policy issues, it is a very narrow discussion when it comes to foreign policy and issues of wealth inequality. But yeah, we don't have Fox News, and that is a big driver of a lot of misinformation, or at least of the conservative mindset of greed and personal wealth and narcissism that has put the U.S. into the situation that they're in today. Okay. Last segment video. I keep burping. I don't know why I decide to drink certain carbonated beverages before and during streams, but I do. And it becomes a problem. All right. I want to take a look at some recent polls. Of course, Joe Biden versus Donald Trump. Let's see where the race stands right now. So first, I'll show you the Real Clear Politics poll average. Of course, this is national polling. Biden leading by 6.8 points, which has been fairly consistent. As you see here, there is no point during this race where Trump has led in the national poll. It is an almost guarantee that Biden's going to win the popular vote. Of course, the only question comes around the Electoral College. So let us check out. And by the way, a lot of this is new to me as well, so we're going to find out together some of the results when it comes to these battleground states. If I can find it. I have to go back. Here we go. All right, Wisconsin, Biden leading by 5.5 points. Has been fairly consistent throughout the race. The only point where Trump was leading was early on. I believe this is in March, April. Yeah. So back then, Trump was doing fine. But since then, Biden has continued to essentially grow his lead and is sitting fairly comfortably right now in Wisconsin. Let's see what else. Let's check North Carolina. Biden leading by 0.5 point in North Carolina. That one's been really close. Continues to be close. Let's check just a few more here. Arizona's one that's been a new one they're fighting over. As John McCain's wife, Cindy McCain, backed Joe Biden. Biden up there now by 3 points. This is the kind of, look, you have to understand, this is big. This is a big deal. The fact that a Democrat is leading in Arizona is a big deal. And you saw for most of this race, Trump was leading Biden, but now Biden has, for the most part, since about March, April, been leading in Arizona. That's big. Let's go to a more traditional battleground, or more recent battleground. Let's do Michigan. Biden leading 5.2. So you see there as well, he's led the entire race in Michigan. So this is just Real Clear Politics. I also want to get to 538, as 538 has more of a weighted average. So they look at different pollsters and how consistent they've been in terms of actually predicting results, and then give them a rating based on that. So, but before I get there, let's also just do Ohio. Biden leading by 3.3 points in Ohio. The hell is this? Sponsored content. Okay, they don't have the breakdown here. But there you go. So let's get to 538 now. Who is ahead in the national polls according to 538? So this can be hard to get the accurate results. But here, as of October 2nd, Biden leading by 7.4 points in or nationally. And as you see throughout the race, he has held a consistent lead. Let's check some battleground states, if I can find them. Let's check Ohio. Really close in Ohio right here, but Biden leading by almost 1.5 points. Let's check. I want to go back to Arizona. Biden leading by 3.1. Arizona seems a potential lock here. Let's check Texas. Trump leading by 2 points, which absolutely could collapse. 2 points is not a lot, especially if one of the big potentials here for this race is that a lot of people that did not vote last time are going to come out and vote this time simply to vote against Trump, meaning that a lot of this polling could be off in favor of Biden. So in 2016, a lot of the polling was off in favor of Trump, as he brought out a lot of non-voters or people that hadn't voted previously. But now Biden is going to bring out a lot of people that just want to get rid of Trump that didn't vote last time, meaning that they're not being included in many of these polls, as most polls simply poll, likely voters. But here you have people or these races fairly close, even in a state like Texas. And if enough typical non-voters come out to vote for Biden, it could flip. What else should we check here? Have I done Michigan on this? I don't think I have. Biden pretty comfortable in Michigan, leading by 7 points. Let's do one more. Georgia has been one that's been a potential toss-up here. Look at that. Look at that. Biden leading even in Georgia. All right. Of course, look, I'm actually fairly confident. I think if everything was equal, if everything was fair, if every ballot was counted and everyone that could vote was able to vote, I think Biden would easily win this election. The only worry I have is that Trump's going to try and steal the election. Assuming he gets better from COVID, assuming he's back in the race and everything's normal, I think he's going to do what he can to try and claim victory on election day, as a lot of the Democratic ballots going to be mailed in, meaning a lot of it's going to be counted after election day. So a lot of Biden's vote may not come in till days or weeks later. So that gives Trump the potential opportunity to possibly win the same day vote on election day, claim victory, and then try and stop the counting of the mail-in ballots. So that's my only real fear when it comes to this election, is Trump's going to try various ways to steal the election. But if all things are equal and people that are able to vote can vote, I do think Biden would easily win this election. But I'm gonna keep an eye on these polls and continue every week up until the election, giving you an update on where the race stands. Okay. My mouth is so dry. Jesus. Canada, man. It gets, around this time of year, like once it hits winter, the air gets so dry. And I'm going to have to start making tea. All right. Let me grab some chats. Victoria B says, please help debunk global news smear on Lascaris. Cielsa's 2018 blog post response article titled Canada's Greens confront anti-Semitism in their ranks. Yeah, let me just, I'll show you my Twitter response to it. I'll tell you why I didn't want to do a story on this. Because often publicizing or platforming these sorts of articles can actually have the adverse effect. As I saw this tweeted out, it didn't have a lot of response to it. There wasn't much engagement. I'm not inclined to make a video on it unless I think it's, being spread around. But in case people have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm going to bring it up in a minute once I find this tweet. Here we go. So here is the initial story here. So David Atkin of Global News tweeted out his story saying here, on eve of leadership choice, Canada's Greens confront anti-Semitism in their ranks. This is, in case you're wondering what the hell's going on, there is a Green Party leadership race happening in Canada. Dimitri Lascaris is critical of the right-wing Israeli government for the way they have treated Palestinians, relegating them to an open-air prison in Gaza. And much like when it came to how apartheid was dealt with and I guess demolished in South Africa using boycott, divestment, sanctions, Dimitri Lascaris likes that same approach. It's worked before to end apartheid in South Africa. It can work again to end apartheid in Israel. There is no anti-Semitism here. It is a critique of a government. But again, the same kind of smear that's been used on Jeremy Corbyn. It was even used on Bernie Sanders. Remember that? After Bernie won Nevada, they took out all the big guns. Bernie Sanders, who could be the first, Jewish president, yeah, he's anti-Semitic now. It's the same BS they've used on anybody that's critical of the right-wing Israeli government. So I replied to this saying just the obvious. You should be embarrassed by this. Boycott, divestment, and sanctions. BDS work to end apartheid in South Africa, and it is the same approach taken by Lascaris. Ask yourself how supporting a government that restricts Palestinians to an open-air prison called Gaza is humane. So that's my extent of it. As you see here, there's not all that much engagement. I don't see the need to elevate this story. If I thought I was making a bigger impact, then I would do something about it. I would cover it. But when it comes to certain things, like this is also why, honestly, I don't engage a lot of bad faith right-wing attacks in America either. People like, I don't know, Steven Crowder, for example. I mean, there are certain individuals that it's not worth giving them the attention. They want attention, and elevating their BS just elevates them. Now, to be fair, someone like Steven Crowder is a lot more famous than this dude is, but even more of a reason to ignore the story because no one knows who this person is. So for me, it's not worth elevating the story. But I am glad you brought it up because it is worth discussing. Jenny Nix says, Berta girl here, meaning Alberta. Doctors and teachers are leaving the province because UCP. I'm medicated AF and on perm disability, and they're cutting programs. Yeah, I got to be honest with you, Jenna. I haven't followed it too closely, and it's because I've already absorbed so much negativity from covering American politics. For me to have to also get into the mud when it comes to Alberta, it's just not. It's there is great independent journalism in Alberta. If I can find their name, I know I follow them. Pretty sure I follow them. Here you go. Because I know there are great people doing this work, Alberta Advantage, follow them. They're in the weeds on all this. So if you're in Alberta, if you're dealing with what you're dealing with right now when it comes to the UCP, follow Alberta Advantage, listen to their podcast, as they fill in the gaps that I just can't. I don't have the as one person doing this show, I'm going to have some limitations when it comes to my ability to cover things. And just when it comes to knowledge. So, yeah. Unfortunately, I have not been able to cover that, but I am glad you brought it up. Because it does seem like the UCP is really... I mean, I heard they're pushing to attempt to privatize healthcare in Alberta now in some weird way. Yeah, a lot going on there. Nancy Bernard says, I volunteer for Shahid. Nice. And also, we have very important direct ballot initiatives on the SF ballot. Fantastic. Yes, ballot initiatives, another great reason to go out and vote. I imagine there are going to be a number of places that are potentially legalizing or trying to legalize marijuana as one ballot initiative. But anyways, yeah. Ballot initiatives, another major reason to ensure you're voting. Kellogg 170 says, I prefer the clean-cut look, eh? Thank you, Kellogg. Bose Einstein 7, if Trump survives, will he push U.S. herd immunity? I don't know if he'll do that. Anything I say would be speculation. I don't think Trump, all he cares about is himself. It's just going to be about the election. So I'm not even sure if he'll even think about any solution, even if it's herd immunity, which is not a solution. But, I don't think Trump really cares. Adam Bryson says, hey, David, what do you think of Canadian cops? Are they militarized also and crazy like American cops? It depends, right? I definitely don't see the militarization the way I do in the U.S. Quebec is maybe a little different. I do remember this year there being a peaceful protest in Quebec, and the cops there shot tear gas into it. So there are moments like that, but it's not as frequent and as common as it is in the U.S. That said, I've also covered stories. I covered a story earlier in the summer where cops responded to a wellness check. His family, this elderly man, their family called a wellness check on him because he's schizophrenic, and I guess he was having an episode. So what do? They sent cops. Instead of sending a healthcare professional, they sent cops, and the cops got a ladder, went up to his second floor apartment, through his balcony, broke his door in, and then he was scared because he's an elderly man with schizophrenia, so he was holding a knife, and because of that, they shot and killed him. They were called for a wellness check, and they murdered him. So those situations, that is what is very common in Canada, are wellness checks gone wrong. So this is, again, it goes to defund the police and discussing it in a way where it's not meant to be punitive. It's simply meant to discuss how, look, when the outcome is so often somebody getting injured or dying during a wellness check, then maybe we should move these calls to another area, to public health. Maybe healthcare professionals with no weapons should arrive to these calls. And you should have less cops doing that. And cops should be focused on violent crime. So, yeah, we definitely have our issues. And there's definitely racism when it comes to the RCMP and the Indigenous community. That definitely exists. But in terms of the militarization aspect of it, it could be more common. I just don't see it as much. But it definitely exists in certain ways, like protests as well. When it comes to, I believe when there was a protest on a pipeline in BC, cops showed up and arrested people there. Though I'm not sure if it was, I don't know. It's less common, I should say, when it comes to the militarization and the just the blatant inhumanity of it all. Every day there's something new. Last week I covered a cop just rode his bike. He was walking it, but he rode his bike over a man's head on the ground. And that kind of shit is less common here, for sure. Hugo Florence says, peaceful protest tomorrow at Jeff Bezos' mansion in Beverly Hills. More info at peoplesparty.org. All right, peoplesparty.org. There you go. Radzoso says, I watched the 4-part PBS Frontline, quote, hacking your mind about how easily we can be manipulated. Highly recommend. It's on the PBS website and app. Yeah, PBS has some solid documentaries. So there you go. Check out Hacking Your Mind. All right. winding down here. Get your super chats in now if you want any, if you want me to respond. And then if there's time, I will grab random chats as well. Miranda Juvin says Trump 100% deserves this. He's a barely human black hole who's never faced any consequence for the horror show life he's led. Finally, justice. I hope he's truly terrified like I've been for months. Yeah, you know what? That would be the best outcome. Is he is scared shitless. Survives it, because I don't want anyone to die, but survives it, is scared shitless, and then Biden beats him badly in the election. That's probably the best outcome. It's unlikely to change his mind. It's unlikely to make him act differently. But if he gets a little taste of karma, it's not the worst thing in the world. Jenna Nick says, just keep you updated, David. Just keeping you updated, David. Thank you for the recommendation. Thank you, Jenna. Yeah, yes, definitely check out Alberta Advantage. Juna McGrath says, just in, Trump has a low-grade fever. All right, well, they already said he has mild symptoms. So low-grade fever kind of goes in line with that. It's funny. I load Twitter. The first thing that pops up is Paris Marks here, who I've had on the show before, by the way. He's fantastic. Says, I cannot watch a running feed of speculation about Trump's health for the next 2 weeks. That's really going to be so much of Twitter. It's just running speculation of Trump's health for the next 2 weeks. For sure. So I'm sure next week on Friday, I'm going to have another update. It's only going to be 7 days into the isolation. I'm sure we're going to have some updates on his health. But it's pretty much going to be the news for the next week. But it's important to remind ourselves as well of how dangerous the man is, of what he's done, of what his lack of action and action when it comes to stopping the masks have led to. In fact, while I finish this chat, I want to put up the graph that you're all so familiar with, but of course, got to keep showing it to you. 1 second. Here we go. I'll just keep this one up so you're all reminded. As you see now, Canada's moving into a second wave. Not good. In fact, it's as high as it was when it was at its worst. So not doing good right now. I'm not even sure what you would call this. Is this a third wave? Is this still the first wave because the first one never went down? Like, I don't know what this is, but that's Trump. That's Trump. That's what that is. All right. Let me grab all these chats. Shrugged Shoulders sends a super chat saying, thanks for the coverage, David. I like your hair longer. There you go. I think the long hair is winning. Lena Balawan says, hey, David, Trump is lying. About what? I don't think he's lying about the virus. There was some speculation about that earlier. What's the benefit? What's the benefit? You know, after he downplayed it for so long, acted like only really old people with heart conditions, you know, get sick with the virus. There's no benefit to that. Also, by the way, I saw a very interesting tweet right here. This guy called it before it was announced, simply based on where the E6b Mercury is. So I don't know all too much about this world. My understanding is this holds the nuclear codes or the ability to launch nukes. So basically, when this plane moves, or because of its movement, Tim Hogan here was able to look 12:19 a.m. This is before Trump announced he had the virus. I looked because I would expect him to pop up if he tests positive. It's a message to the small group of adversaries with SLBMs and ICBMs. So there you go. This guy predicted that Trump had the virus because of where the hell this the E6B was. So I'm not in the conspiracy camp here. I think he has the virus. Also, Hope Hicks had it. Like, people around him have it. It's not. Yeah, don't go down that hole. I get why you would, because he lies about everything, but this is one situation where there is no reason to. Okay. Tam and Spandex, thanks for your super chat. Thank you so much. Literal Ill says, long hair, do care, LOL. More long than short, so I think long has won. All right, that appears to be the end. Again, there's a minute delay, so if I miss your chat, I apologize. Oh, it's coming in now. People are getting lucky. More coming in. 3 more. Michelle Smale says, is there any chance you could interview Marquita Bradshaw? She's challenging Bill Hagerty for Lamar Alexander's Senate seat in Tennessee. I think she's a good candidate, but she hasn't had very many good interviews. I'll consider it. To be honest with you, I'm not sure who in Tennessee is watching my channel. I mean, if that's gonna help, maybe. But what Marquita actually needs is, your support, money. She needs commercials. When it comes to winning a race like that, where it's going to be very hard to flip Tennessee, you need to get the normies, and the way to get the normies is to be in the standard media in Tennessee and get interviewed on and maybe she has, but she needs more television coverage in that area, in that state, to really make a difference. Lawrence says Kyle just quote tweeted that Trump may have a high fever. Cody says toss in another vote for that majestic flow hair. Thank you. Let me check Kyle's tweet here. I'm sure it's being tweeted by everybody at this point. Yeah, okay. There we go. White House sources tell me Donald Trump has a high fever. All right. I mean, that's right in line with him having... that's mild symptoms, right? Like, I wouldn't call that serious yet. A fever aren't serious symptoms. But there you go. High fever. Have to keep an eye on this. And that also potentially explains why he hasn't tweeted. And I imagine he still hasn't tweeted since he announced it. More coming in. You guys are not letting me go. This, whatever that name is, says Trump made fun of Hillary for being sick in 2016. Yes, he did. You know what? Do I have that in front of me? I do.
But here's a woman. She's supposed to fight all of these different things, and she can't make it 15 feet to her car. Give me a break. Give me a break. Give me a break. She's home resting right now. She's getting ready for her next speech, which is going to be about 15 minutes, and it's going to be in 2 or 3 days.
There you go. Stark contrast to Joe Biden sending out his message today, wishing Trump and Melania well. But these people always play dirty. I mean, imagine it was the other way around. If Biden got the virus, do you really think Trump would be tweeting out, "Oh, I wish Biden well. Hope he gets better"? Really? No, he'd be talking about how old man Joe is sick. He can't handle the pressure. He's too sick to be president. Of course, Trump would be jumping on that. But the man's disgusting. So what do you expect from a disgusting human being? All right. One last refresh here. Hope you got all your chats in. And then I'll grab some random ones quick as well. James D says long hair for the win. Thank you. Tamanda Spandex, or Taman Spandex, something like that, which I read earlier. Already forgot your name. Says, P.S. digging the long hair. All right, long hair wins. Long hair wins. Miranda Juvon says a huge bonus to what will be constant coverage about his health is that the spotlight under the election will be on the pandemic. Last thing he wants. Fair. That's a good point. Andy Hyman says, you are doing a good job. Greetings from Germany. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. I believe that is the last one. Again, there's like an hour delay. There's a minute delay. Did another one just come in? I'm hearing things. No, that's it. All right. So let me grab some random chats from the normie chat here. What if I just go on screen? Will you do a gaming stream anytime soon? I want to. I was going to say Saturday would be the time I would do it, but if I'm doing Twitch that day, it would be because I'm covering the Green Party leadership race in Canada. But maybe I'll game before then. I don't know. But this is why you gotta follow me on Twitch and on here, so you can be notified. Follow me on there. Ensure your notifications are on, and then I imagine that tells you when I go live. Dave's mullet 2020. This will not be a mullet. A mullet would be if I shave the sides and let the back go long, which I am not doing. Don't you dare call this a mullet. No, this is more like 1970s hair. Black Caucus says play Fall Guys. Maybe. Have you played a Total War game? I'm not super into RTS. At least I wasn't when I was younger. And I don't have a PC. So not having a PC makes playing RTS a lot tougher. So I played them, but I've never really played them to any extent. What else is coming up here? When's the next live stream? It's going to be it's every Friday. Every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Apart from that, they're kind of random. So maybe on Saturday, maybe not. And then I do Twitch live streams. Though I have to admit, I'm not consistent on Twitch. But if you follow me on there, you'll get notifications. Did I watch Waco on Netflix? It was really eye-opening. I have not. I heard it is good, though. Try reverse mullet. Not doing that. Someone says Jill Stein is not the Green Party nominee. I'm talking about Canada. Canada's Green Party leadership race. This is not the same Green Party. The American Green Party is a colossal failure. AOC has done more for the progressive movement in 2 years than the Green Party has ever done in its history in the U.S. Just putting that out there. So I don't think the Green Party is worth your time if you're in the U.S. Canada, we have a parliamentary system. It's a bit different. So that's why I care about what's happening here. All right. Time to almost go. Beer or whiskey? Usually beer, but I'm open to whiskey if I'm feeling crazy. All right. This chat's actually pretty quick. It's almost 1-to-1 with the actual live chat. Amazing. American Green Party is a waste of resources. Yes, I agree. All right. Time to go. I was here for 2 hours. How about that? It's like an entire movie. Will you ever do a discussion with Brian Tyler Cohen? It's I see this guy's name everywhere. I've never watched his videos. I don't really know him. So he seems to be more of a I mean, I'm sure he does fine work, but it's more of like I know he's working with the Biden campaign right now. I saw an article about that. So I tend to stick with the independent people that do this work and not people that partner up with politicians or corporations. So I don't know, but I'm sure he's fine. All right. Thank you all. One last refresh since I may have heard a super chat and then time to go. I did hear. Miranda Juvon with the last word here. Says you're covering the VP debate live, right? Pretty please. Yes. Thank you for this question. Yes, I am. I'm covering the VP debate live. That is going to be on Wednesday, I believe, right? The 7th? Wednesday? Yes. On Wednesday, I'll cover that live, likely alone. So I'll talk over it a little bit more. But we will see. Swirly Swirl, with the very last word, says Status Coup is going live now. Go watch. Bye. Bye, David. All right. See you later, everybody. And see you potentially on Saturday on Twitch. And definitely see you for the VP debate on Wednesday. Goodbye.